Welcome back to Project Management Guerrilla Tactics 101, how to act like a PM when you're not really one. First thing I'm going to do is move my little face up to the top. I want to make sure that we keep the closed captions visible. In our previous slide, in our previous presentation, we talked about the three basic tools. I want to jump into one of the tools right now, which is the schedule tracker, which I also lovely to refer as the goal and task tracker. You may say, what does that mean? First thing we're going to do is capture what the goals of the project are. What does success look like? At the end, everyone's going to celebrate and they're going to point to that it was success. It's almost like scoring a goal in soccer. What does success look like? The team working together and scoring the goal in the end. But in this scenario, we're not playing soccer, right? We are implementing a expense approval system that's going to have electronic approvals, and it needs to be done by a certain date. There are some really specific goals there, and I want to make sure I capture it. So one of the first things I'm going to do is, you can download this from where you got this class, is I put together what I call a project tracker. Here it is. First page of it is a summary, and it states that very same scenario goal, the goal of what we're doing, when we're doing it by, and a requirement, which is the electronic approvals. Really important. I love to capture it right with my project stuff, because I don't want to lose sight of what's important on this project and what I'm being measured on. So let's go back here and talk about tasks. Tasks are the things, the steps we need to take to get there. They're step-by-step instructions. You might need to talk to Jerome from finance, or you might need to have an IT person. You might need to understand what that current process looks like and need to review from Jerome, what does that process look like, and even maybe what they envision for that future process to look like. And then you do a step-by-step of what implementing the new process, new steps would look like. All right, let's go right into my schedule tracker. Here we go. You'll notice that I have this task called Task Tracker. I started filling it out because you gave me the goal of the project, goals, and that already starts clicking what I need to do. First thing I always need to do is get my team. I need to know who I'm going to be working with. But what you'll notice is under the task tracker, I have an order. These are the order of the steps. I group them and I number them. This is up to you how you want to number them. I like to keep track just in case I put these out of order accidentally. I also want a high-level description of the task. Also, what does this step accomplish? What does this task get me? Why am I doing this specific task? Who's responsible for the task? I'd love to know that. Also, what is there a due date or a completion date when this needs to happen? Because, hey, I have this June 1st deadline I need to meet. I want to make sure all my dates line up, or how much time I need to do each of these tasks. So that's a due date, a completion. I might also track duration. That's how long each of these things take to complete. You don't have to track all these fields. You can just track description. But honestly, track enough. At a minimum, let me tell you something. Track description, who's responsible, and the date. Duration, up to you. I like to track that because I need to know what my end date looks like and why, which is my biggest time sucker. First thing we always do is identify who is going to be on my team, and I get that team together. And I'm responsible for that as the project manager. I may wear another hat, but I am responsible as a project manager to get these people together. I may have to speak to my manager who's going to tell me who's doing what and confirm their roles. This one is I want to talk to Jerome and say, hey, Jerome, can you be on this team? We need a representative from finance to approve this process and make sure it works for you guys. Someone may think they hold more than one hat, and you want to make sure if they do, everyone knows what those hats are. So let's say you're the project manager, but you're also the IT person, or you're also the person who approves the vendors. Those are two hats you wear, and you want to make sure the rest of the team knows that. So you may want to document it somewhere, tell people, whatever it is. You want to make sure everyone agrees that those are your roles. This is really an important step. I call it a kickoff meeting or a planning session. This is where everyone on your team gets together. It might be for an hour, it might be for 2 hours. It is where you start thinking about what needs to get done and putting a project plan together. I always like to have a rough draft at a high level of what I think I need to do. But sometimes you may not have even an idea, and this may all be blank. It may look like this. And you're like, I don't know what else I need to do other than get people together because I don't have enough experience. And that is great. If that's where you're at, no shade. But sometimes we're here. We also know what are the next steps. We just may not know who's responsible. We may not know duration. And we also may not know people's availability to get stuff done. We also may be missing steps because we're not the expert of everything. A project is about the team putting together a schedule and a plan that everyone agrees to. Let me repeat that. It's a schedule and a plan that all your team members agree to. They may not like it. They may say, hey, this is really hard. Yep, it's hard. What can we do to make it easier? That's a different conversation. But everyone can agree to what it looks like in the beginning. You start filling this out. Maybe there's a technical meeting that you need to have with IT and the vendor because you've been given a vendor. I don't know. Or maybe, oh man, we haven't even identified vendors. All right, let me add some steps. Insert. Get an RFP for vendors. Right, this is get out requirements we want the app to do. And you send that out to vendors, and then vendors bid. Not bid, vendors put in their proposals. Return proposals. They'll say yes or no. It may not even be as complicated as that, and you may say, no, we don't need that. Vendor has been identified by leadership. They want to use their brother, cousin, Larry, and Bob. All right, the leadership did this. I want to give them credit because that's what they want. No, you want to make sure who the vendor was. Do we need to meet with the vendor? Do we need an understanding of what that tool does before we even start processing? Maybe we need a technical meeting next. This is where that kickoff and planning session might need to happen, and it might need to be more than one meeting. Don't be upset if planning feels like it's taking longer than what you want it to take. Planning should be a big chunk of your work, whether you plan initially or you keep replanning these steps. I want to make sure we don't shortcut planning because planning is going to give you the ability to move quickly. Once you start a plan, you can start moving. And some of these steps can be done concurrently. You can be doing a kickoff session and have sent off already what you want it from the vendor, whatever it is, or that vendor may have been identified and the team is doing some brush up of what that tool can and cannot do. Because at the very least, whatever tool is picked, What you want to make sure is, does it have electronic approvals? At a minimum, right? So you want to make sure that all that is part of your planning session. And people have different ideas of what they want. Maybe your end user, who is your on your team, your end user representative, saying, "Hey, um, I have some use cases we want to walk through." That is a great example of something that an end user community or representative overall is going to give you. That's that person who says, "Yeah, I use this tool all the time." So I'm going to turn to him and say, "How do you want to test it? Let's get a list of what the testing looks like." You can actually be writing that at the same time that you are planning for implementation. So think this isn't a let's do this one thing at a time and we move in a linear. No, we can move multiple things at a time. You have to be able to identify. You can't test the app until it's implemented, right? Well, you can't implement an app until you identified the vendor. You can even walk a plan backwards if that's easier. So I'm going to stop it here. This was your overview on what I call the schedule tracker, which is tracks your goals and the tasks of what you're going to be doing. It's not a one and done. Come back to the next video and we'll talk about the RAID tracker next.